Good morning. If you don't mind, if you would please find your seats. Thank you so much for being here today. The Nashville Civic Design Center's mission is to elevate the quality of Nashville's built environment and to promote public participation in creating a more beautiful and functional city for all. My name is Dana Terabesi, and I'm the Vice President of the Board of Directors for the Nashville Civic Design Center. I've also co-chaired today's event with Andrew Beard. This is our 15th annual luncheon, and looking out over this room, it makes me incredibly proud and happy to see what an impressive crowd we have here today. The Nashville Civic Design Center is fortunate to have an incredibly passionate board of directors who have also generously committed their time in helping support this organization. I would like to ask all current or past board of directors to please stand for recognition. Thank you all for your service. I also want to thank the sponsors for today's event. This year we have 95 sponsors, the most in our history. Our sponsors are made up of a wide variety of companies, organizations, and institutions in Nashville that support our mission of creating a better city for all. We would like to recognize our presenting sponsors this year, Mars Pet Care and Global Furniture Group. Thank you both so much for your generously supporting our work. Thank you also to our program sponsors, Earl Swinson Associates, Gary Music Productions, the University of Tennessee College of Architecture and Design. And our keystone sponsors are Gresham Smith, the James Stephen Turner Family Foundation, the Scott C. Chambers Fund, Vanderbilt University, Village Real Estate Services, and Mikan Development. All of our Cornerstone and Visois sponsors are displayed on the screens to my right and my left and listed in the app. Let's show our appreciation for their support also. We owe so much to all those who have contributed to the work of the Nashville Civic Design Center through the years. It is your support that enables us to produce adaptive programs, initiatives, and in community engagement in the work we do, and it is expected in our city. Now we'll have a short video with our presenting sponsors.
I'm Angel May with Mars Pet Care, and I manage our corporate citizenship programs, like Better Cities for Pets. The work that Nashville Civic Design Center does is critical to our campaign, Better Cities for Pets. They're this amazing thought partner that's helping us to think through what cities can do and should do to create more green spaces for pets.
We started this journey to make cities more pet-friendly just 2 years ago. We had no idea how to really make this thing work. We partnered with Nashville Civic Design Center to really help us create the meat behind what the program could be. Their ability to work in urban areas and with urban governments really helped us shape what this program could be. And so from the beginning, the Civic Design Center has been a big part, an integral part really, of the entire project.
I'm Nick Green and work with Global Furniture Group, where I'm the territory manager for Tennessee. So when you think about the Civic Design Center, they're building for the entire community. Every user, doesn't matter in your rank, status, or social income, they're making the environment built for every user to experience. The role of our partnership has played some key factors for both the Civic Design Center and ourselves. We both have a focus on everybody in the built environment and creating a solution that's ergonomic for every person. So having these public spaces to go to, parks and communities to engage with each other, creates the opportunity to improve our city, create cross-cultural discussions, and enables to make us think of ideas to help improve our environment. The first step to getting involved with the Civic Design Center is downloading their app. Once you download their app, you'll see all the different opportunities they provide. It gives them background on the organization, and it lets you know upcoming events to get involved in.
Nashville Civic Design Center is a key organization to make Nashville a better city. I encourage you to donate, whether you have time, talents, or treasures. Just get involved today.
Learn more about Nashville Civic Design Center, volunteer or sponsor a project. Definitely get involved.
My name is Andrew Beard. I'm Vice President of Core Development and also honored to co-chair this event with Dana Terabesi. And we're excited that everybody is here. Right out of the gate, I just wanted to acknowledge that we have over 800 people in this room. That's the largest attendance, and it's the greatest number of sponsors that we've had in the history of the event. So I want to give kind of an applause for the Nashville Civic Design Center. And also for all of you sponsors that are here with us this afternoon. By no means do I think this is a coincidence, but this kind of investment and support is an indicator. It's an indicator of the center's influence on the ground of Nashville's sustained growth, creativity, and vibrancy. This influence would not be possible without our sponsors, and we appreciate your investment in our work. Today, you will hear more about how the center has practically doing every day, deploying the kinds of resources in terms of human capital, design expertise, and public participation to bring real results on the ground. This afternoon, we do want to recognize our elected officials, and I hope I haven't left anybody out. We've had a few that have trickled in here just recently, but Metro Council members that are in attendance tonight that I know about are Angie Henderson, Russ Pulley, Berkeley Allen, John Cooper, Jeff Syracuse, and Mary Carolyn Roberts. Let's give a round of applause for our elected officials. In his absence, Mayor Briley requested that we share his greetings to the Civic Design Center family, and especially to our welcome guest, Michael Lydon, our keynote speaker. To quote Mayor Briley, "The Nashville Civic Design Center has been and continues to be at the forefront of helping our city reimagine how we plan, how we build, and how we grow in a way that promotes a more enjoyable, sustainable, and healthy environment for all of our residents." And personally, I really do believe that Mayor Briley has eloquently captured the role of the Civic Design Center, and in particular for me, how joy, how beauty, and imagination have truly ignited a noble sense of reclaiming Nashville's public spaces. So again, thank you for being here, and then I'll just turn it over to Dana.
Thanks, Andy. You know, one of my favorite aspects of the Design Center is its ability to engage citizens in our communities in a way that makes city and neighborhood planning approachable through public engagement opportunities like the Plan of Nashville, Envision Nolensville, or the Fairgrounds. The Design Center has initiatives like Design Your Neighborhood curriculum in metro schools, as well as turbo installations like 51st Avenue in the Nations or the Triangle in East Nashville. Design Center educates those who have never heard of or understood terms like built environment or complete street or public space. Through the work of a Design Center, citizens are inspired and empowered to reimagine their neighborhoods and how spaces around them can function in ways that are safer, more active, and more enjoyable for years to come. Our theme for this year's annual luncheon is Reclaiming Public Space. And we are very excited to hear more from our keynote speaker, Mike Lydon, about his experiences working around the country to make cities better and more vibrant places, including his efforts on tactical urbanism. When Andrew and I were brainstorming ways we wanted this year's event to be different, it became clear that our vision was the same. We wanted each of you to experience a Design Center, not just attend another luncheon or reception the night before. We truly wanted you to understand all the different facets of what the Design Center does and its impact in our city. Last night, we hosted our sponsor reception at Disc Cidery in Wedgwood Houston neighborhood. After a brief presentation by Mike Lydon, our keynote today, the neighbors had an opportunity to truly engage and learn and understand what tactical urbanism is and ways that they could really think through that and possibilities for their neighborhood in Wedgwood, Houston. And do you have anything to add?
One thing I do want to make mention of is I do want to thank all of those who represent the Metro government departments that are here. There's too many to list right now, and also the city of Franklin is also represented here tonight, and we want to thank you for being here.
And now we would like to welcome to the stage our everybody's favorite CEO of Nashville Civic Design Center, Gary Gasty.
Thank you. To help you better understand the work that we do, I'm not giving a traditional speech this year. All of our work, with that? Thanks. All of our work is categorized into 5 large areas of different initiatives. We have the Plan of Nashville, which encompasses all of our programs and events and tours. We have our Shaping the Healthy Communities work, which focuses on how the public health of our city is impacted by the built environment. We have our Moving Tennessee Forward work, which encompasses our partnership with the University of Tennessee College of Architecture and design studies related to land use planning and transportation. We have our Design Your Neighborhood focused educational curriculum, which is working with youth and Metro public schools. And we have our Reclaiming Public Space initiative, which is the focus of today's event. Our Urban Design Forums are our monthly ongoing programs of the Civic Design Center. It is predated even the organization itself, beginning back in the late 1990s. And we have all kinds of events going on at the Civic Design Center, from exhibitions in our space to our very popular Pachakcha Night, which is actually coming up next week. So I hope that you can attend that if you've never been to one before. We have our really cool tours where we maybe go through a building or actually get to experience the Cumberland River. In our Shaping Healthy Community work is a continuation of the book that we published with Vanderbilt University Press just 2 years ago, focusing on public health and the built environment. And we are continuing that work with neighborhoods by providing a Shaping Healthy Communities toolkit that neighborhoods can use to assess development and work with developers and work with the community to promote better public projects in their city. Just recently, we actually partnered with Neighbor to Neighbor to do an installation of looking at how kids could actually get involved in this process of building their own neighborhood and designing it in a healthy way. And then, of course, we have our partnership that was mentioned with the presenting sponsor with Mars Pet Care, and that is also a continuation of our work involved with Shaping the Healthy Communities. And I know some of you hopefully had a chance to meet Emily on your way in. Emily is a dog in training to be a service dog, and she is here with us today as a part of that. So please make sure you have a chance to meet Emily on your way out. She's over there. I see her. But this whole process with Mars has been outstanding to show the ways in which we are beginning to design cities to be more promoting of pet-friendly design. And we've worked with them extensively over the last 2 years to do a pop-up dog park design, which has had the chance to travel around the country and now even around the world to Amsterdam. And looking at how, even here in Nashville, we can transform existing infrastructure to start to transform these places to accommodate the nearly 4,000 dogs we have living in downtown now, which is a tremendous growth over the last 5 years even. And just 2 weeks ago, I was invited to go to Paris to speak at the Future of Animal Companionship Conference, which was hosted. It was a one-day event. There were about 12 speakers featured that day to talk about public spaces and the built environment related to pet-friendly design. Get the hang of this. And then our continuing partnership with the University of Tennessee is always looking at projects around Nashville, how we can insert better design student projects into different areas of the city. And even just a few years ago, one of our semester-long projects was looking at the idea of a community boathouse for Nashville. And these were some of the ideas that were generated from that design studio, and I'm so thrilled when an idea that comes from this partnership is actually being carried to fruition. We produced this publication, and now the city is working to realize a community boathouse on our riverfront. And these are some of the renderings from the project, which is now being released as an RFP, and this design by Hastings. And so very much excited about how that went from an idea to now is going to be built. And as I mentioned earlier, our Design Your Neighborhood educational curriculum is working directly with Metro Public Schools to teach about urban design and planning and civic engagement. We started several years ago with funding from the James Stephen Turner Family Foundation. We've now worked in high schools and in summer programs, and this year for the first time we have written a very talented staff member who's leading this project, Melody Gibson, on creating curriculums for 7th and 8th grade middle schools. This program is now in 17 of our middle schools in Davidson County. We have 25 teachers who are signed up to teach this program with a total of 1,400 students this year. And we want to grow that. We want this program to be in every single 7th and 8th grade curriculum that's a part of the STEAM program. And you'll find out more about how you can volunteer for that. We need volunteer time of our design professionals, of all the professionals in the room, development. We need 2 hours of your time, and you'll be hearing about how you can sign up for that in the coming year. And then this summer, we actually had the students who were participant in this process, they got a chance to design their own space. And this was a partnership with Connexion Americas, the Greater Nashville Regional Council, and the Salahuddin Center. And the student participants went out and actually did a public space intervention in their neighborhood, in their community. So they got a chance to see firsthand how they could impact and make positive change happen. Many of you have probably participated in one of our 7 years of Parking Day. Over those 7 years, we've gone from having 9 parking spaces the first year to the past year has over 75 parking spaces with 55 different participants. In the 7 year, we've had 385 parking spaces participate in Parking Day. And it's transformed our partnerships with Metro City government departments and just allowing people to see the impact that even the smallest public space can have on transforming Nashville. And here's some of the images from this year. And then after each Parking Day event, we give awards out to the best different design projects from the awards. And we're thrilled that Hastings actually allowed us to bring in their design this year, which was voted the biggest wow factor, and it's in the back of the room. We also have a small parklet from our space. So, and then our group, Turbo Nashville, is Tactical Urbanism organizers. They're on the ground, they're working in Nashville to make change happen. If you want to be more involved and want to actually work on a project and get engaged with that, you can join and volunteer for Turbo. This is a recent installation that was done as a part of the HCA Volunteer Day. This was built at the Crosswalk, right in front of HCA's headquarters, that crossed over to Centennial Park. We had many participants who utilized this, but also the employees of HCA. I heard one comment that in all the years I've worked here, not a single car has stopped for me as I tried to walk across the street to get to Centennial Park. You all know how busy that road is. This was a pop-up crosswalk and parklet that showed them what could be done there. So to better capture some of the spirit of our Reclaiming Public Space work, we've created a very short video to show you.
Public space is a necessary component to a livable community.
Public space is the outdoor living room for the city.
It's the heartbeat of a community.
Places people can congregate and kind of mix and learn from each other.
It's more of
community gathering space than I think a lot of people realize. Civic Design Center offers a lot of opportunity in trying to make the city as interesting and as dynamic as it can be and serve the human needs.
In 2002, we had a series of 50 public meetings and workshops all across the urban core of Nashville. And the ideas that were heard and created from people attending those meetings actually is what created the Plan of Nashville. The Plan of Nashville was always envisioned as a grassroots, community-based plan for what the city should become and what it should be. And so it wasn't a top-down approach to planning. It was kind of turning that around and saying, okay, we're going to talk to and involve and get the energy and ideas and spirit of the people that actually live in the neighborhoods to craft the vision for what they wanted to see happen. Those principles now still guide the work that we do here.
The Civic Design Center, as opposed to any private firm, it's almost as though the vision for the city is the client. So there's a sort of freedom in its work, and to have this nonprofit organization where the staff comes in every day, but the client is really a vision, makes it a very unique organization.
I think our biggest strength is the trust that we have from the citizens of Nashville and the neighborhoods and the people that have worked with us.
Conexión Americas is a local nonprofit that is dedicated to creating opportunities where Latino families can belong, contribute, and succeed. When we opened the pre-K center, now having almost 100 children here every day, the urgency to create a park and a playground in particular then became an urgent priority. So I reached out to the Civic Design Center and said, I am meeting with the mayor in 2.5 weeks, and I know this is too short notice. Can you help me with some basic rendering that I can bring to the meeting so that he can see what could be possible? I can tell you that that drawing, when I show it to the mayor, really made an important impression. So thanks to the Civic Design Center, I had a basic but powerful visual.
What we've seen is the incredible power of showing that to people, a before and an after.
Oh my gosh, I owe the Nashville Civic Design Center everything. I was a participant in their Design Your Neighborhood program. I believe it was summer of 2011. But throughout the summer program, I was going into my junior year of high school, and I wanted to just get involved in a program that would introduce me to all aspects of design. And so kind of set forth my journey into architecture and what I'm doing now. I interned with the Nashville Civic Design Center summer of 2015. They helped me discover my potential, they helped me discover my creativity, and also my interest in making sure that my community's voice is heard.
The Civic Design Center has been an amazing resource. They are, working hand in hand with the community to make sure that the community, plays a vital part in what's going to be there, its use, and how is it going to serve the community. So they want to make sure that the community is not forgotten.
We have to pay attention to both existing public spaces and the opportunity for creating new public spaces.
One of my favorite projects that NCDC worked on in our city was this triangle of concrete that's been there for a really, really long time. And it allows this normally boring space to be rebirthed.
This used to be a very, very dangerous intersection, and it's been transformed. And it is a great new public space for the high school, the kids that are here.
I feel like the Nashville Civic Design Center as a whole, they're very passionate about people.
They have a particular respect and appreciation for the heritage of communities.
They see a future that has an ideal in mind and can help the city create a path to get there.
Now more than ever, we need shared public spaces that bring neighbors together.
Their mission is noble, and we like being involved with their efforts to do better things for the city of Nashville.
Whatever you can do to improve your environment is a great opportunity.
NCDC is helping citizens become active, giving them a way to drive participation in their communities.
The Civic Design Center has gotten us on a good track, but now is not the time to drop our support.
There's an opportunity for everyone that's sitting in this room to be part of the solution.
I encourage everybody to be a part of NCDC.
And I want to recognize our filmmaker, Skylar Huey, and Solar Cabin, and all the effort and work that went into creating that video, and the wonderful interviews that were conducted, and everyone that lent their voice to that. Thank you very much. So just to end, I want to talk about what's a few exciting things ahead of us in 2019. You may recall some of our kind of crazy ideas 10 years ago about capping the interstate. So we're going to continue to push forward on looking at opportunities to reclaim space in areas that are there and available. We believe that there's about 50 acres of potential public space all around our inner loop for that. We're continuing our work with Shaping Healthy Communities and Mars Pet Care. We're looking at a pet-focused addendum to our Shaping Healthy Communities book that will inform design for cities all around the world. We are continuing our work and focus on the east bank of the Cumberland River. Back in 2012, we did a design competition that looked at this site, and we had 130 entries from 29 countries all across the world. This was the finalist, but we know that that site is so critically important to the health of our future city, so we want to continue to focus on that. We are working very closely with Metro Parks Department on a number of projects, and one of those is a small new pocket park on Jefferson Street. And we started about a year ago on community engagement in the summer. We're continuing that process and work to create a new park there. There's a lot going on. It's impossible to tell it all, but we also have our Reclaiming Public Space publications, and several years ago we did one focused on downtown. We're finishing one right now that focuses on the potential for alleys as public space. If you visited the 21C alley, that was a vision from the Civic Design Center many years before anything happened there. So it took the spark of showing what it could look like to make it happen. And as announced earlier this week, we are going to be doing a Reclaiming Public Space study on the future of Ann Dallas Dudley Boulevard to show what that could potentially be, as well as Church Street Park to show best practices for public space design in the case that the land swap does not go through. So I'm proud to announce that we are also in 2019 relaunching our Urban Design 101 course, which is graciously and generously been funded by Hastings Architecture. People want this. A lot of people went through this class when the Design Center started, and it's time for it again. So we'll be getting out more information about that. And then last thing, which is so exciting for us as a staff and an organization, we have grown a lot over the last few years. And we have had the same furniture and same office space design for the last 18 years. So through a partnership with Gresham Smith and Global Furniture Group, we have, through our staff process, have worked on a redesign of our office space. And Global Furniture has very graciously agreed to donate all of our new furniture for our office. So we will be kicking that off in 2019, and you will get a chance to see some of those plans at our open house holiday party this year. So thank you very much, Global Furniture. Thank you, Gresham Smith. Thank you, Core Construction, who's been helping out with that as well. And here's just not the final rendering, but just some mock-ups of that. So in conclusion, the 10 principles of the Plan of Nashville guide our work and what we do every day. And the unveiling of the Plan of Nashville, and for the first decade of this event, it was actually labeled Living the Plan of Nashville. And I think we need to go back to that idea. And so we're here, this is very exciting today, to actually do this for the first time, to present an award or recognition to someone in this city that is living up to the principles of the Plan of Nashville in everything that they do. Such an incredibly inspiring person. I cannot tell you how wonderful this individual is, and I know you agree with me in all that she's done, Miss Burdell Campbell. So, Burdell, we present this to you and honor you. Please stand for Burdell. Truly a superstar model citizen. And yeah, thank you. With that, we want to continue this every year. So thank you for being here again today, and it's my pleasure to turn this over to our keynote speaker, Mike Lydon. Thank you.
What's up, Nashville? How you doing? All right. You getting sleepy after your lunch or something? Jeez. I am really excited to be back in Nashville. I was telling some folks last night I've not been here since 2012. And so I kind of came in from the airport and said, wow, you guys have been busy. And I'm sure a lot of the work that's been ongoing that Gary has shared and all of you in the room who are working on the livability of the city have been involved in a lot of these transformation efforts. And I'm pleased to see and learn more about in the last couple of days the work that the Design Center is doing. It's phenomenal work. It's nation-leading work. And so you should be supporting their efforts. I love seeing the kind of work that they do that's related to what we do and how they're carrying it forth on a local level. So it's been pretty inspiring for me the last 24 hours to be here. This is my view from the hotel room. So thank you to Dee at the Hermitage Hotel. This is a lovely view and a lovely way to kind of start thinking about this presentation last night and what I wanted to share with you and convey here today. Our company, Street Plans, is a small consulting firm with 2 offices in Miami and New York. And we do a lot of different kinds of projects around transportation, street design, public spaces, architecture, urban design. But really the outcome we're going for and the methodology that we use to deliver lasting, impactful change for better cities is placemaking and tactical urbanism. And so you can see one example there from a project we just installed a couple weeks ago in New Britain, Connecticut, finding ways to transform places that people look at every day and don't think that could be some place where you could sit and have a conversation or walk your dog or have a public place in our neighborhoods where oftentimes they're lacking. Today, I hope you take away 4 key things. You can figure out what the heck this wonky term is, tactical urbanism. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. I want you to understand how it can actually improve, though, the process of project delivery, how we conceive of, include people, and then deliver projects on the ground, physical things. I'd love for you to be committed once you leave today to getting engaged with organizations like Turbo and understanding how the process and the policies and the things that Metro is starting to do to engage this group can be even more transformational moving forward, that this is on the front edge of what this organization here locally can help the city achieve in the long run. And then I hope you're inspired. Get involved. Go do a project. Come up with an idea. Work with Gary and the team. There's just so many things, so many opportunities here in Nashville for you guys to move things forward. So like NCDC, Street Plans does a lot of visioning, like many planners and architects. That's what we love to do. We were asked to envision streets of the future, low car, electric car kind of future in New York City with an organization last year. And so we started thinking about all the mechanics of that and the mechanisms that would be involved and what we could actually do to reclaim streets to be something like this, right? So this is the vision, but this is the easy part. Just drawing the sexy picture is not difficult, right? It's actually going to the neighborhood and explaining, hey, what about removing all the car parking from the street? And friendly neighbors oftentimes then turn into something like this. So we've all seen this challenge, right? The idea is not the difficult thing, it's executing on it that is. So this may be why 80% of our plans don't get implemented. And maybe in Nashville you're better. Maybe you're 70% or 40%. The point being that oftentimes our plans just don't move forward, and that's frustrating. And I think part of that is related to what Jane Jacobs said, which is that city planning as a discipline lacks tactics for building cities that work like cities, meaning there's very few opportunities for lots of hands to get involved in the making of a place. And when that does happen, you get diverse areas, exciting areas, walkable areas, you get community. City planning as a discipline is great at strategy. We do need to be thinking about 20 years from now, of course. But how do we connect that strategy to tactics on the ground that get people involved and allow our ideas to evolve piece by piece over time? So conventional project delivery or planning, and the way we critique the practice is that it's very slow, which winds up being expensive. Politicians, of which I know there are several in the room today, really struggle to balance this long-term vision with actual tangible results on the ground. And in the process of planning, we unintentionally exclude large swaths of the population. Now, the 800 of you who are in the room today may be excited about going to a library or a community center for a public meeting on a Tuesday, right? But I guarantee you 99% of the other people in your city, probably not, or don't have the time, don't have the resources to do that, right? So oftentimes our processes, how we plan and how we deliver projects, by being exclusionary, creates a lack of trust in governance, and that actually discourages even more participation. And that, we think, leaves so much value and opportunity for people in communities on the table that's uncreated. So we need new ways to build cities together, and that's what street plans is all about. That's what we try to achieve. And our method, as I explained, is tactical urbanism, which defined can be led by a city, by an organization, such as NCDC, or just citizens who use low-cost and scalable, oftentimes short-term projects that are intended from the very beginning to create long-term change. So it isn't about doing the pop-up park because it's fun to do a pop-up park, and it is, but how does that pop-up park and how you learn from that? What do you learn from the act of doing that feeds into your longer-term vision? That's the key. How is this connected, and why are we doing something for a day? What's the point? It's about the bigger long-term vision, and that's what I think NCDC and Turbo has really got a handle on here locally. We've written a lot about this idea. We've disseminated this idea globally. It started with a little 25-page booklet that we wrote back in 2011. We've done several volumes looking at tactical urbanism in different cultures, different countries around the globe. We've released design guides that actually include a lot of these cool materials, things that are cheap and cheerful, things that you can pull off the shelf, or things that your public works department may have in a warehouse. I really love the traffic tape. If you don't know what this is traffic tape, which is one of my favorite materials. Anyways. So there's lots of resources, and you can read our full-length book, which was published in 2015 by Island Press. But we recognize this approach is not new. What we're doing is we're picking up on historical threads of individuals, small groups of people, actors making changes, making insertions into the built environment. Here are just a couple of examples from Paris, the banks of the Seine in the upper left. To the lower right there is someone named Claire Morissette, who's an activist in Montreal, who started doing these guerrilla fly-by-night pop-up bike lanes with no permission. And you fast forward on her impact 50 years later, and Montreal is one of the most bike-friendly cities in North America, if not the globe. There's really been 3 phases of this movement. For us, it was really getting excited about and rediscovering how that unsanctioned guerrilla activity was very quickly in a number of places around the country leading to changes in zoning, changes in policy, new investment, new businesses opening up. And we're talking about things that were, parking day, one-day insertions, or build a better block projects, or little things that just opened up people's imagination in the city to say, hey, this is actually really cool, we should be investing in this. But then things started to change. Somewhere around 2007, and maybe over the last 8 years or so, is that cities, departments, agencies, DOTs started to look at this as a methodology they could start to utilize in their own practice with communities. And I think where we are now in the last 2 or 3 years is we're seeing the transformation of planning and design practice to include this. Now, tactical urbanism is not appropriate for every kind of project. We would never say that it is. Sometimes it works in certain situations, and sometimes it doesn't. But what we believe is that it should be a tool that's available to all of us to utilize and figure out in which situations it can be utilized with success. And so now we're seeing design studios and architecture schools and planning schools, and from the kind of the the bottom rung now up, starting to bring this skill set into the field, which is extremely exciting. The work encourages people to work together in new ways. This isn't about just putting dots on a map. This is about then going out into the street and doing something and acting. It allows people who don't get engaged in design charrettes to actually experience a different reality today. And we call this a rendering in real time. So it takes that fun image on the screen and actually puts it out on full view so that if you're just going about your daily life, driving to work, waiting at the bus stop, walking to the corner store, you get to see it change and react to it and give your feedback. It allows us to widen public engagement by that very methodology. We uncover what works, but more importantly, why we do temporary projects is to learn what doesn't work. You know, the worst thing to do is spend 12 months, 18 months on a planning process, come up with ideas, and then wait 5 years, 10 years, 15 years for the capital funding to come in behind that, and then build something and it doesn't work very well. We've seen a lot of that. So this is about learning the pain points in a project and the designs very early and often. And finally, because of that, we deliver public benefits faster when our projects are successful. Or in short, this, right? This is what we do as planners and designers. This is what people do, right? So giving us a chance to see what people do in space helps us to create better design. So there's 3 common applications. There's public engagement, and we typically think of that as demonstration projects, things that are 1 day to 7 days long, perhaps. Pilots or interim design projects are those that are in the ground for, say, a month up to, say, a year or possibly longer. They're there to really collect robust data, get feedback over the course of several months or over several seasons, right? And then now, a lot of our work is focusing on policies and programs that help scale this work up. So you're not just doing the one-off crosswalk, or you're not just doing the one protected bike lane for a weekend, but how can this be a tool that's used across the whole city? And so we're helping communities figure that out. And where do you intervene? Pretty much anywhere, but we try to focus on the undervalued, the unsafe, the unused, the unnoticed, or the plain unjust. So here's 4 projects around the globe that we were involved with in terms of transforming spaces with communities. The park in the upper left there is actually now being fully reconstructed and will be finished soon in a community in Australia. But that was a 5-year placeholder project that was put into place with $40,000 and just intended to kind of bridge that gap between the capital budget and the plan to do something in that location. So this movement can be top-down. Your mayor can have a vision for this. You know, it can be from the city, but it's also very much bottom-up and everything in between. So we look at the ecosystem in a city and how change gets made, and all these actors, artists, developers, planners, mayors, city councilors, everybody's important in this conversation and has a role to play in the transformation. And the core of the method is an idea we stole from a book called The Lean Startup, and cities are not like startups, but the book has some pretty sound advice on how to start things, which is start small, test. And so we look at this build, measure, learn approach where the learning comes from the temporary projects, and you can feed that back into maybe a pilot, maybe the longer term version or the placeholder until the big project is able to be achieved and achieved more intelligently. So how do you incorporate this into a plan? One quick example. In Jersey City, we've been working for the last couple of years. This was the first project we did there. We were working on a pedestrian enhancement plan. And so to do engagement and do outreach, we did 6 different intersections in a manner that you see there with curb extensions and crosswalks. And the idea was that we were using that as the tool to engage in each of the city's wards, right? And we talked to many people who had not come out to a public meeting, talked to businesses, talked to property owners, learned a ton about those intersections, but also the neighborhoods at large. And that work allowed us to create recommendations in the planning document that were much better informed about what was going to work in place. And what we learned is that people wanted more diversity on the curbside. Yes, they wanted curb extensions, but also what about parklets, bike corrals, bike sharing stations, bus islands, pickup and drop-off zones for ride hailing and taxis, delivery zones. All these things compete for curb space, and we usually just put cars there and leave it at that. So we found there was more interest in doing that, and the city has started to actually work on the curb extensions, the parklets, the bike share stations. All that stuff is now coming out of the pedestrian enhancement plan, and including doing not only the 6 curb extension intersections that we worked on with the community groups, but they've actually this summer went back and made 50 of them using a temporary toolkit, right? So that's getting to scalability. That's what we're trying to do. It's like a acupuncture where we find where there's opportunity and you make that pinprick and then you let it ripple through the system. And now this is their approach to change making and safer streets, is to first start with this toolkit and then wait for the curb and concrete to be expanded later. Similarly, we've been working on the bicycle master plan for the city over the last 6 months or so. And lo and behold, this whole scooter thing started to happen. I know Nashville knows a lot about that. We actually don't have scooters in New York or in Jersey City, but there's a lot of people who bought their own and are using them, as well as electric skateboards, electric bikes. Obviously, riding bicycles is still quite popular in these urban places. So we wanted to do a test for our own master planning purposes on should we be designing streets to be more inclusive of more modes of travel. So here is our first attempt at doing a shared mobility lane where the dimensions are wider, so with different speed differentials, people can overtake each other more safely. We took a dangerous, very dangerous 4-lane street, brought it down to 3, which gave us the opportunity to get the protected bike lanes in. And then, of course, the space to breathe as a pedestrian is just so much better when you've got this extra buffer where the fast movers are on the left, and then you as a person who's walking or doing commerce are on the right in the image. So I want to show you, our hypothesis was that we would get a lot of people in different modes out using it. And there you see the dude with the skateboard in the lower left, the scooter on the right, lower right, and then someone who's rollerblading, and then someone cycling. We saw all of that over the course of 3 days. And we got a lot of feedback on, hey, when is this being made permanent? Hey, can you bring this to my neighborhood? We're really excited about this design. I love rollerblading, and it's terrible on the sidewalk. It's great doing it in the street, et cetera. So I'm going to leave you with just 2 case studies. One's about a series of public space interventions we've been doing in Miami for years now and what we've learned. And then the second is a project that we just wrapped up last weekend in Asheville, North Carolina. So Miami is a bit of a laboratory for us. It's where we started street plans. It's where I lived for 3 years. It's where my partner is based, Tony. And if you think you have bad traffic in Nashville, you might not have been to Miami, where you can literally practice yoga at rush hour in the middle of the street because the cars aren't moving. It's bad. So our first parking day intervention was in 2011. And this was 1 block off the main north-south corridor in Miami. If you know it, it's Biscayne Boulevard. And that's my partner, Tony, standing up. And actually, some of you might recognize Victor Dover there on the left. And we thought we were all clever. We took over this parking space. We had a fun time. People came out. And we were kind of starting to practice this idea of reclamation. But we also had a colleague who came to us and said, guys, this is all well and good and this is fun. But 1 block away, you've got 6 medians in the middle of this 8-lane street that are used for parking. Maybe we should address that barrier first. And Ralph was right. And so this is Biscayne Boulevard. You can see here with the laser pointer, these islands with the fixed guideway transit overhead and the parking, and then the 8 lanes of traffic, which basically acts as a barrier for all this development, all this new people who are living and working downtown to get to the main public space on the bayfront. Right? So it's an issue. And so in 2012, we got a small grant of $10,000, mostly to pay off the Miami Parking Authority so we could get access to one of these blocks. And got 30 different organizations to come out and work with us over the course of 1 week to install this project. And we thought we were clever because this was a failure, which we were a little bit concerned that it would be, what if no one wants to cross all those lanes of traffic and come use the park? We could spread that blame among 30 organizations. But if it was a success, which it wound up being, everybody could take credit for it. Everyone had a role in this. Everyone could share that through their networks. And this created a huge buzz in Miami because of its visibility and because of its impact and because we were filling a need that exists, which was the lack of public space in a town square in the middle of the city. After that project had concluded, the Downtown Development Authority, which had always kind of said, well, we're going to get to the Biscayne Boulevard thing at some point, actually then hired a team to come up with a more specific vision and plan on how to reclaim this part of the city, to go from 8 lanes of traffic down to 4 and repurpose all 6 of those medians into usable and needed public space. Once that plan was created and established a vision, we went back to the Downtown Development Authority, partnered with them, got a grant from the Knight Foundation, and worked with a number of other organizations to produce Biscayne Green. So remember that first test in the cycle? This is the second test. This is, let's do this for longer, let's do this bigger, let's actually collect more data. We've learned a lot about how to practice this idea between the first and the second project. So this was scaling up to 3 blocks over the course of 1 month, including the install and deinstall. So all the volunteers came out, we started painting the street, started rolling out the sod. This was one of the blocks that you see there, creating much more accessible space. We were allowed, because this is temporary, we were allowed from the DOT to put on-street parking on the street. That's not revolutionary if you just think about, well, because there's lots of parking on streets, but they don't allow it on state roads, and they didn't allow it in the downtown. So having those parked cars created that buffer on the sidewalk, which made accessing this space and walking along it actually feel a lot safer, rather than having speeding cars go by you. So it was a community meeting spot for coffee, for meetings, for co-working during the day. Lots of classes, meetups, and events to help program the space. And then at night, it was a party. Live music, beer garden, night markets, movies, things that would really draw people out into this space that are activities that just don't happen anywhere in the core of the city. And so we were, again, meeting that pent-up demand for public space that was accessible, usable, and cheap and cheerful, right? All this stuff kind of feels human. It's not permanent. It's not concrete. So people really tend to feel attracted to it. So we did an evaluation over the 23 days that the project was up. We had more than 20,000 users. That's 20,000 people who are now part of this vision or contributing to this vision of reclaiming this part of the city, which, by the way, is a very expensive endeavor. We learned a ton by doing a lot of camera analysis. I won't go too far into this. But as designers, as people who are thinking about this space for the long term, one of the key numbers that we learned is that there was gender imbalance in the space. It's 59% men, 41% women. So what was it about the design, the events, the programming? What was it about the invitations to half of our population that some of them did not feel welcome or were not taking advantage of this space? That's something for us as designers to think very seriously about if this is to move forward in a more permanent way. And then maybe most importantly, we took this plan, which probably most politicians would never read, that would have been created by the DDA, and we put it on full view. And the local city commissioner in this district did not support this project very much. He was tepid about the whole, well, it's just a month, and why are you spending this money, blah, blah, blah. That is him announcing that he wanted to make it a permanent project at the end of the month. That's the kind of impact we're going for. We need that political will and that buy-in for politicians to understand the vision here and be a part of it and help sell it and get over the line for the funding. So we've learned a ton about working in Miami. We realized that there's still many barriers to complete streets, to safe streets, to walking, to neighborhood meeting places. And we came up with an idea to do tactical urbanism on a regional scale. So we got a grant from an organization in New York called Transit Center, as well as a local one called Miami Foundation again. And we got $180,000 raised to put towards a contest for community groups, for city departments, for activists to nominate projects across the whole county. We had 68 applications. We selected 18 projects. And our role is then to provide the technical assistance on actually installing, implementing, and monitoring and evaluating these projects. That led to a second round, a second year of grant funding from the Knight Foundation. And we were able to leverage another $150,000 from local municipalities who wanted to contribute to the effort and make it bigger or longer or whatnot. So for some of you who know the planning field, $300,000 for 2 years of work, so to some it may sound like a lot, to some it may sound like a little, but for tactical urbanism projects, it's a lot. You can get a lot done with that amount of resources. So this was about testing this ecosystem of county-city citizen collaboration. And county and city and citizen don't necessarily get along very easily jurisdictionally in Miami. So this was about trying to break down those barriers through public space interventions such as Plaza 98, which is now the public space in one of the villages in the north part of the county where they didn't have one in the core of the walkable area. But we still were finding all these challenges were being put in front of us just to get permission from our client, who was the county. And so my partner helped get a resolution drafted, he wrote it, and it then got put forth in front of county commissioners, and they were able to then streamline the process, which was critical for us being able to roll out more projects in the last several months, which was to create a flexible and streamlined engineering process to allow for the quick build program to do its thing. So it's a very simple permit that we've looked to achieve for these projects and to get things rolling. So here's an example in Miami Beach, a 9-space parking lot next to a tiny pocket park, which is now that. And this allows for the First Fridays as a monthly event for the neighborhood, as well as the weekly farmers market. Now has a more dignified and beautiful place to have people gather in the public space. Most recently, as part of the Quick Build program, we worked in downtown again on Avenue 3. Now this is about another block from Biscayne Boulevard. And this is all about creating on a 2-block segment a street that could be changed for the interim for a couple of years, and then the support gathered and delivered for the transformation of the space more permanently with a grander vision. So here you see, again, a site plan of lots of color, kicking the cars out and making a very slow travel space. All the volunteers out there painting, and then the impact. And so what we do with these phase 0 projects is it's not sometimes enough just to get them in the ground with paint or with temporary barriers. We've got to actually invite people in to use the space. And what better way to do that than food? So we had a big dinner on the opening night of the party with 650 people who came out. Again, it's very hard to get 650 people to a planning charrette or a meeting to talk about reclaiming public space. You might get 16 or maybe 60. So these kinds of events allow us to share this vision, get feedback on the vision, and help build that political momentum for the long term. So the next project we're working on is a Woonerf in another neighborhood, which will feature this sort of pattern on the ground. So I'm going to conclude here with the second case study, which is much shorter, which is the work we just did in Nashville. So you can see we've been working in Miami in this way for 7 years. It's a process, right? We have to have these different revolutions in that build, measure, learn cycle. So we're kickstarting that now in Asheville, North Carolina, with Asheville on Bikes, the city, AARP, and Blue Ridge Bicycle Club, and other partners. And this was about introducing the idea of tactical urbanism to the community, but also thinking about some of their main streets on the edge of downtown, which are perceived to be unsafe, and sometimes are, and could use changes as they get redeveloped. So there's a lot of new breweries, new businesses, new apartment mixed-use development coming into this area, and the street's not really serving the population that's there now. So this is what we did. We, over 0.3 miles, we took the parking, moved it off the curb, because the street was very wide, and in the curbside, we put that tan paint, which you see there, which is for walking, cycling, skating, right? Kind of like the Jersey City project, just designed a little bit differently. Still have on-street parking. And then we actually added this mural at the center of the project, this block scale mural working with a local artist. So the idea here is to make the street feel a lot more inviting and public for people. Yes, you can drive there. Yes, you can park there, but you can also be there safely to walk, to cross the street, to ride a scooter or a skateboard, or wherever you want to get around that's a low impact to the city. Here's another quick example of what that looked like on the ground. So very simple, meant to be a 12-month pilot project. The city's going to be doing a lot of evaluation along with the University of North Carolina at Asheville on the impact of this project. And the whole point is to inform a bigger program both at the city level, but also introduce ways for groups like Asheville on Bikes to be able to do this in a replicable way that doesn't require street plans to be there leading the charge. It's about building that civic muscle on how to deliver these projects. So you can see a couple more images. It's also about testing materials for the public works. So the evaluation, I can't share anything yet. Again, we just installed this last weekend, so we're on the other end of that spectrum as opposed to 7 years. It's been in the ground for 7 days. So we've learned two important things in our practice working with all sorts of great people around the country and the globe, is that city departments, agencies, as well as advocacy groups and communities are really, really hungry for this. It's extremely popular and exciting when people get together, break down these barriers, and work together to get something built. And I know that NCDC and Turbo know that through their tactical projects. But if we're going to do this at scale, if this is going to be more than just one-off projects, cities and citizens need predictability, they need process, they need policy that's geared towards actually doing this work. So we're not reinventing the wheel time and time again. The worst thing you can have is a process where an active citizen shows up and says, I have a great idea for my neighborhood on how to make this street safer. And you say, well, that's going to be a 9-month process, and you got to fill out this permit, and that never goes well. So we got to think about the ways to enable this work at a larger scale. So the back end, our kind of methodology here for project delivery is that we've got the demonstration project option, right, which is the very short term, 1 to 7 days, has a certain type of materialness to it that is appropriate, that's highly reversible and very cheap. Pilot projects, 1 month to 1 year, possibly a bit longer, a little more expensive, a little bit more permanent, allows us to keep things over multiple seasons. Interim design is that placeholder, 1 to 5 years. Different material sets, different processes, different ways to evaluate and steward these projects, right? You can use more permanence, but you also introduce a lot more of the maintenance challenges and those issues. So there's a whole kind of toolkit for that. And then we get to long-term capital. The problem with planning is we just think about the long-term capital at the outset, and all these other steps have not been part of the process. So you don't have to go 1, 2, 3 to 4. Some communities have been able to do that. But to know that this is a methodology that you can use here in Nashville and use it very intentionally and very effectively is something that I wanted to convey to you all today, that this is a toolkit that exists and can be very impactful here. So the future of this movement, is it policy and programs? That sounds boring, but in some ways it's true. It's what a lot of our work is focused on, is helping communities from Burlington to Fayetteville, Arkansas, to New Orleans, to communities in Greece and Auckland to figure this stuff out, because it's tricky stuff. But at the end of the day, this is not about the cool park and the bus stop that's improved, the street, or the building. Okay? It's not about the physical thing. We tend to showcase that in all these images, right? At the end of the day, guys, this is about people. Right? This is about people in our city being safer, being happier, having access to opportunity, being able to share in the city and its physicalness together. That's why we do this work, and I hope that's why you are all here today at this event, is because you're interested in that outcome. So, sorry about that. So the brain tends to remember 10% of what it reads, 20% of what it hears, but 90% of what it does or stimulates. I'm interested in the 90%. That's why we're out here doing physical projects using tactical urbanism so people really understand the opportunities for transformation in their communities. So moving forward, we've got new resources coming out. As always, we've got a volume 2 of the Materials and Design Guide coming out any day now. We're focusing on a tactical transit study with the Transportation Research Board, which is part of the federal government. So how does tactical urbanism apply to buses and train stops and things like that? And then we have a new guide coming out next year about the art of asphalt. How do you select the right paint? How do you get these designs? How do you work with artists for murals, for curb extensions, et cetera? So those are all coming down the pipeline. So with that, thank you. And you have a beautiful city. This is a beautiful room. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mike. We heard Mike last night. It was really an exciting talk that he gave then, and even more exciting this morning. So I'm sure you're aware of just how much the impact that has made on this city. I'm Cyril Stewart. I'm the chair of the board of the Nashville Civic Design Center, and proud to be here. It's been an amazing couple of decades that the Design Center has had an impact on Nashville. We look forward to continuing that. So as we move forward, I want to thank a couple of people. The staff is remarkable. All the things that Gary talked about, all the things that you've seen today, really couldn't be possible without the staff. So I'd like to recognize them. Melanie Gibson, Eric Hoke, Joe Mays, Jules Shaneberg, Mike Thompson, and Julianne Yockey. And we have a great... Okay. And there's a great thank you to someone who's been on the staff for 9 years, but has recently taken a position with Smith Gee. Ron Yearwood's here, and he has been part of the heart and soul of this organization. And we want to thank him, but also tell him that he's never going to leave the family of the Civic Design Center. So thank you, Ron. Good. We also want to thank our fellows and interns. They're an important part of the program. Edgar Bolivar, Kelsey Osman, Madison Ron, Sheila Ward, and Taylor Young. And last, but certainly not least, is our CEO, Gary Gaston, who really is the heartbeat of this organization. Thank you, Gary. So at the end of this event, here we are about to leave, and you say, how can I get involved? All this looks not only like important stuff, but fun stuff. And believe me, it is fun stuff. And so we'd love to have you more involved with this. And the way that you can do that, for all the things we'll talk about, all the things you've heard, is through the app that you may have downloaded. It's through the website and keeping up with what we do. And so some of the things that you can do, number one is to attend. And for attending our urban design forums, the programs, the tours, and Pachacacha nights are great ways to get involved. And they provide something for you to do each and every month. In fact, our next Pachacacha night, and once you've been to 2 or 3, you can learn how to pronounce it. It takes a little bit of time, but the Pachacacha nights are fun events. The next one is going to be held on November 13th. It's an amazing program. Each presenter gets 20 slides, and they only get 20 seconds per slide, but they don't advance the slides. So it's a fast-paced program. The focus this time is on the creative process. So if you haven't been to one of those, you'll have a great time there. It's now in over 1,000 cities throughout the world. And mark your calendars for our annual holiday open house. It'll be a great opportunity for you to see the plans for the new and improved Civic Design Center with new furnishings and finishes. We really want to thank the people that have made this possible, not only the staff, but also Global Furniture and Gresham Smith. The next thing you can do is volunteer. It's fun to go to these events, but it's even more fun to be part of them. So we'd invite you to volunteer. One of the things that we do have a critical need for is for Design Your Neighborhood. Gary was talking about this. It's meeting with the middle school kids and really working with them and mentoring and helping them to be part of shaping their own communities. We need 70 volunteers next spring, each to commit to do 2 one-hour sessions with the children. I guarantee you'll have more fun than you've had in almost anything you've done recently. Turbo Nashville, you've seen the impact of Turbo here. It's a great way to volunteer. One of the most exciting parts of Turbo, we have a lot of different activities that you've seen, but the most visible of those is Parking Day. And a lot of people set up for Parking Day. If you have ever been a part of envisioning, designing, building, staffing, or visiting Parking Day, would you please stand up? I know we've got a bunch of them here. Look at that. It's a huge group. So if you're not involved in Parking Day, that's a great way to get involved as well. And like Gary said, the wow factor winner from Hastings Architecture is right back here in the corner. So stay connected with all the things, either through that app or through the website, and keep up with us. And the last way to really be a part of this is to join us. A lot of you are here as guests. A lot of you are part of a larger table. There are individual memberships. We would love for you to be part of us and get the individual announcements like that and support us with your time, talent, and treasure. And on your way out, take a few minutes. And I'd encourage you, instead of going to the closer door, I'd encourage you to go over to the right-hand door, because what we have there is on the right-hand side, just as you go out, we have Parnassus Books staffing a desk that has Mike's latest books, and he'll be glad to be there and sign them for you and autograph them. So stop there. You will also be able to see all the different activities and events, the incredible Mars setup that's out there, and Civic Design Center table. And if you want to be involved in something, one other way to do it is to drop your business card at the Civic Design Center, at our booth and table that's out there. So the other thing that we wanted to tell you about, there is another table that the Metro Planning Department has, and Elvin Gonzalez will be there, and the city has a new pilot parklet application. So if you're a business or an organization that would like to have a parklet right outside your door, you can talk to him and get an application. The applications are due February 8th, so there's a little bit of a tight time frame on that. And the last thing, we want to thank you all for coming and being part of all that we do. Thank you so much.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.